Voice actors are by far one of the most important parts to an animated film. In fact, I'd say they're the unsung heroes of the industry, of course, other than the production team, because unless a character is played by an A-list actor and it's marketed correctly, you wouldn't necessarily know who the person behind the voice actually is. Some voice actors are hugely iconic and very well known, some require a certain fan space, and some have built a massive reputation as a voice actor over the years, but I guarantee that they have a few roles that you would never have heard of. One of my favourite examples is that nearly every single actor has some sort of voiceover credit, but chances are you may not have necessarily known about it. Some we do know, such as, Danny DeVito. Some then come a little bit more of a shock. Mark Hamill, Willem Dafoe. However, some, like John Krasinski, J.K. Simmons, heck, even directors, they've become their own characters and no one really knows. Chris Sanders, for example, one of my favourite directors. He directed How to Train Your Dragon, he directed last year's Wild Robot, but he was also the mind behind Lilo and Stitch, and he actually voiced Stitch, who of course is one of the biggest characters of all time. In fact, if you've been to Disneyland or Primark over the last couple months, you'll probably know that Mickey is nowhere to be seen, it's all just Stitch. But there are some specific voice actors which absolutely blow me away. They have many credits behind them, and I'm not talking like 100, I am talking hundreds. Hundreds of characters, from iconic ones, big names on the screen, some of the most classic film creations of all time, all the way to the smallest one-liners and background characters. And today we are discussing my favourite actor that fits into that category. My favourite voice actor of all time, really, who has an astounding amount of voice actor appearances, over 400 of them to be exact. I'm of course talking about the legend himself, Jim Cummings. So let's take a look at some of his most iconic voices throughout the years. Hi, my name is Luis, I'm a filmmaker that specialises in animation, so hence the video today. And if you like this concept of the video, we've actually done two on the channel before. We've already looked at the Walt Disney Animation Studios legend Alan Tudyk, and we've also done John Ratzenberger as well, who is Pixar Animation's good luck charm. So if you do like this video, check those out at the end. I'll leave links in the description down below, as well as clicking the cards on the screen. But if you do like all things Disney, film, parks, animation, and just, films in general, then please do consider hitting that like and subscribe button. It's free, you can unsubscribe at any time. But for now, let's get in. Starting off the list for today, one of Jim's most iconic characters and also one of his favourites. A character from a 90s TV show that was a Disney production, Darkwing Duck. As I say, this is a show that ran through the 90s, and Darkwing's not really been on for a fair few years now. He did have a TV show that came out in 2017, and the occasional appearance, in video games such as Disney Infinity, the spin-off TV show DuckTales. He's actually recently appeared at the Disney parks as well in the 90s night over at California Adventure, and there's even a comic book, and a total of 90 of these episodes aired during the 90s, and it follows the events of the terror that flaps in the night Darkwing Duck, which is the alter ego of the regular suburban duck Drake Mallard. It's a fantastic show, and it can be found on Disney+, so I recommend checking it out, and as I say, it's one of Jim's favourites. But one of Jim's most famous and front-facing roles came to the Walt Disney Animation Studios in 2010. Of course, The Princess and the Frog, and he voices one of the lead characters, Ray, the Firefly. In fact, recently, Jim has once more lent his voice to Ray when Tiana's Bayou Adventure obviously overtook the Splash Mountain attraction at the Disney parks, and he had to record a brand new song, Rolling Down the Bayou, which replaced the iconic Zippity Doodah from Splash Mountain. And in fact, while we're on the topic of Disney parks, we may as well cover a few more of those roles. Now, of course, any of the characters that are on the list today, the ones we are still yet to talk about, if they appear in the parks in some way, shape or form, there's a 95% chance it is Jim. But one big one that I like to talk about is his Star Wars appearance. Of course, he plays a very iconic character in Star Wars Rebels, but also Star Wars The Clone Wars, Hondo Ohnaka. The space pirate appears in the pre-show queue to Rise of the Resistance, and it's nice to see an animatronic version of one of these characters, obviously from animation, make their way into the real world. And of course, to see Jim in the parks is lovely. Jim does then also voice random bits and bobs throughout the parks as well. And of course, he appears in things like Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. But Jim does have some very random voiceovers throughout the years, and more specifically, very random songs. One of the most famous examples of a voiceover song that Jim has done was in The Lion King. Now, Jim was actually in The Lion King. He plays Ed the hyena, but he actually sung Be Prepared. Of course, the iconic villain song that was sung by Scar. Now, Scar, as I say, is not played by Jim Cummings, but Scar's voice actor Jeremy Irons actually lost his voice at the beginning of recording, so Disney asked if Jim could step in, and you can't really notice the difference. It's really well done. If you listen, you can hear, but it's not very noticeable. Jim, of course, have worked very closely with the Disney company for many, many years now and has done a plethora of different roles, both big and small, and some of the smaller roles include Razul in the Aladdin series, both in terms of the film and also the TV show. And although he didn't voice the original 1967 version of The Jungle Book's Car, of course the snake, he did voice it in the 2003 sequel, where he also then lent his voice to MC Monkey and also Colonel Hattie. Now, the original Car was actually voiced by the legendary voice actor Sterling Holloway. Now, Sterling, as I say, is absolutely fantastic, an incredible voice actor that we do hope to cover in this series on the channel in the future. But he does appear in many Disney classics, such as Bambi, Dumbo, The Aristocats, and of course, one of his most famous roles, he voices the Cheshire Cat in Alice in Wonderland. And to be honest, you can kind of already start to hear his voice in your head. Now, there's a huge character that Jim took from Sterling as he was ending the end of his career, and sounds pretty similar to some of the other Sterling roles. We've just spoken about Car and the Cheshire Cat, for example, so I am, of course, talking about the very lovable, the very huggable, the adventurous Winnie the Pooh. Jim has lent his voice to Pooh since 1988, and that includes everything Winnie the Pooh. I am talking merchandise, I am talking video games, I am talking movies, I'm talking parks, rides, attractions, again as just discussed, and of course the endless cycle of Winnie the Pooh TV shows. So basically anything that was created post 1988 that includes Winnie the Pooh, that's Jim Cummings. But that is not all Jim has done for the 100 Acre Wood, because of course he does voice my favourite Disney character of all time, Tigger. Tigger is a massive part of my life. He's been a huge character for me, both in terms of who I look up to and sort of matches my personality, but also I received a teddy when I was just a few days old that I still have to this day. And I was actually lucky enough to meet Jim at Comic-Con in London back in 2021, where he actually signed my Comic-Con exclusive of a flocked Tigger, which, I mean, it was pretty cool to own this figure anyway, but the fact that he then is able to sign it says to Luis, which of course is me, love Tigger, and of course on the side is his autograph just there, Jim Cummings. So I can show these off on the channel a little bit more, but I was super excited to meet him. He is a lovely man, and I am so happy that I got that opportunity, and it was so good to speak to him in the flesh. But of course, exactly the same as Pooh, anytime you hear Tigger in terms of merchandise at the parks or anything like that, of course the many adventures of Winnie the Pooh, for example, and then that is Jim Cummings. In fact, there's a funny story behind the many adventures of Winnie the Pooh that Jim has come out and said recently, and it's that the many adventures of Winnie the Pooh in California had actually closed down to then allow Tiana's Bayou Adventure to sort of expand and have that whole, New Orleans theme. So Jim closed down one of his voiceover roles, being Winnie the Pooh, and replaced it with another one of his voiceover roles with Ray. So he just basically swapped his characters out, which is quite fun. No one's ever done that before. As briefly touched on, of course, he does then also play Pete, of course, Pegleg Pete, if you want to call him that, from the Mickey Mouse and Friends, or Enemies, depending on how you look at Pete. So, of course, since 1992, he's been voicing the character, so in both Goofy movies, the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, and all of the video games and random appearances that Pete makes along the years, because there is a lot. But of course, it's not just the House of Mouse that Jim represents. He is having an ever-expanding list of studios that want to work with him, and he has close ties with Warner Brothers. Because since 1991, he has been voicing Taz, the Tasmanian Devil from the Looney Tunes franchise. He also has a huge back catalogue of random voice actings and things like that, and voiceovers for the Warner Brothers company, and just so many other, random films and company in general. For example, some of them are even named characters in Who Framed Roger Rabbit, one of the greatest films of all time, where Warner Brothers did collaborate with Disney for a one-time occasion. Does he play one of his characters? Does he play Taz? No! He plays Bullet number 2. So it's not always big roles, and in fact sometimes he even plays multiple roles in the same production. For example, Tigger and Winnie the Pooh. But also recently he voiced 2 characters in the Paramount film Under the Boardwalk, and in the 2022 Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers film. But he returns to voice Fat Cat, which he did actually voice during the show as well. He played Pete, Tigger, Pooh, Darkwing Duck, and also Shredder's Arm, because that's a character, but I guess still in one movie, and it's all the characters we've spoken about already. Some other smaller roles, then see him voice Featherstone in Romeo and Juliet, the graduation announcer in the B movie, and my favourite one that I have found out since recording this video, and I didn't know that he did this, he's actually the captain of the guards in the first Shrek film, the guy who opens the scroll. Mad. Jim, as mentioned, has then done a plethora of different video games. Of course, as I say, he's already voiced the characters of the ones that we have already discussed, and all of his other characters in general. He works closely with Nickelodeon for his appearance as Shredder in the All-Stars Brawl 2, and of course he also plays Cat from Cat Dog in the first one as well. For a long while, he has voiced Dr. Robotnik in the Sonic franchise. In Disney's Speedstorm, which came out recently, he has voiced Pete and Trident. Kingdom of Hearts is another big mention. And weirdly, another one that I found out whilst researching this video, and I've actually been playing this religiously since the TV show released last year, but he's actually two different characters in Fallout. He's the Institute Synths, and he's also the Scribe in Fallout 4. He is also then in Fallout 1 and 2 as well, which is kind of mad, but just because I played Fallout 4, I thought I'd cover that one. Really excited for Season 2. And then he also voices 22 different characters in Elder Scrolls V. Few TV shows now, of course, because it's not just all films. As mentioned, he does play Cat in the Cat Dog TV show that ran from 1998 until 2005. And of course, he played one of the two main characters, or one main character. But alongside playing one of the lead characters, he voices 66 other characters in that single television show. Fair play. Bonkers T. Bobcat is another big one for him. A lovely character design as well. He's appeared in many different episodes of Scooby-Doo, both as ghouls and also humans as well. Any Curious George fans in the house? I was a massive Curious George fan as a kid. You might recognise him as the voice of Jumpy the Squirrel, or Mr. Quint. He voices 8 characters in Adventure Time, 10 roles in Jimmy Neutron. Tailspin is another big series, of course that's a Disney production as well, where he voices Don Carnage and King Louie, as well as 40 other characters in the show. And of course with those Disney shows, that doesn't even include all of the plethora of the other ones. And finishing off the TV shows sort of bracket is the Animaniacs, of course an iconic TV show, and he's got many roles in that show as well. But we could go on and on and on and on, because there are so many roles. As I say, he's voiced over 400 different roles in his career so far, as of March 2025. So next time you're watching an animated film, TV show, especially if it's a spin-off, a sequel, or maybe a kids show, double check the credits. Because 95% chance that Jim has been a part of that cast. Especially if it is a TV show that's based on an iconic Disney property, for example, The Little Mermaid. He was in that show, Aladdin, The Jungle Book, or The Jungle Cubs, that TV show. Because the vast majority of those characters and side characters are voiced by Jim. Of course, this list then also doesn't include any of his additional voiceover credits, so the ones that didn't have named characters. This video is all just named characters. He has a huge amount of random voiceover pop-ups here and there. Wreck-It Ralph, for example. But long story short, he's in a lot of films. He's in a lot of animation and lends his voice to some iconic characters, some of your favourites and some of mine. But one thing I really do like about Jim is, firstly, how much he loves the characters that he creates. How much he enjoys giving back to the community and just putting on those voices, having fun with it. And that is what a voice actor should do. I also love the fact that if you listen closely, you can tell it's Jim. No matter what character it is, you can always hear Jim in every single one of them, and you can hear a little bit of another character in that character you're watching. There's always an underlying tone. There's a little bit of Winnie the Pooh in Car, and of course the Cheshire Cat, a little bit of Pete in Ray, and a little bit of Darkwing in Tigger. But that's the beauty of it. He does such a fantastic job, and he is such a lovely man. The footprint that someone can leave on these characters and the lasting impression, the relationships that a character can connect with an actual audience member is beautiful. And for someone to care that much about giving that impression is what makes Jim one of my favourite, if not my favourite voice actor of all time. But come back in a future video if you did like this one to have a look at even more of the most iconic voice actors of all time and some of their crazy characters they've brought to life. But before you go, please consider hitting that like and subscribe button. Again, it helps me out so much. It's free. You can unsubscribe at any time. We tend to post these sort of sit-down videos talking about the film industry and animation specific, sort of every Sunday. And then we also are trying to post midweek content as well. So if you do like Disney parks, there's a lot of that content coming because I'm now a bronze pass holder. So check out some of the vlogs that are on the channel. If you like physical media and things like that, then check out obviously some of my YouTube shorts and things like that as well. But also check out my TikTok, my Letterboxd, and my Instagram. It's all linked in the description down below. And check out some of the other videos. Again, if you did enjoy this style of video, we've also been through Alan Tudyk and also John Ratzenberger on the channel as well. But for now, thank you very much. I will see you in a future video. Stay safe. Peace.